Control is one of those albums that you can't tell the story of modern music without. That simple. Everybody, you're right on time for another ride on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. I've been a little under the weather the last few days, so I apologize for the absence, but we are back. And today is a special day to return because we are going to discuss the 40th anniversary of one of the most important albums, not just in black music, not just in R&B, but in music history. That's right. We're talking about Control today, released by Janet Jackson on this day, February 4th, 1986. It is her third studio album. I think what a lot of people tend to forget is that Control is not Janet's solo debut. A lot of people think, wow, she busted out of the gate with Control. No, she had a couple of slow starts. The first one was her self-titled debut in 1982. It did have a really good song on it called Young Love, which was produced by Angela Winbush and Renee Moore. And then there was Dream Street that came out in 84. That didn't go anywhere. And it was an interesting time in Janet's life because she had just turned 18. She got married to one of the DeBarge people, James DeBarge. And she was rebelling because when you're the youngest of 11 children or 10 or 9, I know it was a lot of Jacksons. But when you're the youngest of that many kids, you have got to find a way to become your own person. And granted, she had done the TV show thing for a while. She was on Good Times as Penny. She was on Fame. Then she ended up being on Different Strokes as Todd Bridges' girlfriend, Charlene. And by the time 1985 comes around, she's just like, I want to do my own thing, man. So she does something that I don't think Michael could have gotten away with. Jermaine had to get married to get away, but she straight up told Joe, I can't work with you anymore. She went and got management from A&M Records, who was distributing her music at the time. And Joe swore that they stole his daughter from him. No, buddy, your daughter wanted out immediately. And that's what happened. And so A&M introduces her to these brand new young producers of the moment named Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who have already scored hits for Cheryl Lynn, Encore, SOS Band, Just Be Good to Me, Just the Way You Like It, Weekend Girl, on it goes. And they say, yes, we can work with Janet, absolutely, on one condition. Joe can't be involved, and we're not going to Hollywood. She's got to come to Flight Time in Minneapolis. And Janet was like, I am cool with that. So that's what happened. So they all went together in the fall and winter of 1985 and created this masterpiece called Control. Now, Control is probably, if it's not a top 10 most important album to what modern music is today, I don't know what is. You got to remember, this is Janet Jackson at 19 years old, fully realized who she wants to be as a woman, as an artist, as a human being. And she literally just laid it all bare. Like, Control is very autobiographical. And we'll talk more about that in a minute when we get to this countdown. But you don't have a Beyonce. You don't have a Britney Spears. You don't have so many of these young, talented singers and performers, or even the ones that aren't so talented, young and singers and performers, that you don't have them without Janet Jackson. You don't. She is the godmother of the modern female pop star. You can even make the argument she's the godmother of the modern pop star, period. And people are going to say, oh my God, what about Michael? Michael Jackson is on a whole nother planet. Always has been, always will be. But you still needed somebody to kind of balance that out. And that's where Baby Sis comes in. Because Janet really sort of I'm not saying Michael's music wasn't accessible. That's the last thing I'm saying. I'm saying Janet's music was more accessible to people who needed to hear it. Like, everybody loved Michael Jackson. Everybody. But Janet, her music was catered more towards the Generation X woman, female, young girl who was tired of living under boomer rules, who wanted to do their own thing. And that's what Janet did. And Control to me is basically Renaissance for the early 80s, for the mid 80s, for New Jack Swing, as it were, because there's a lot of New Jack Swing elements in this album. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But yes, today, what this countdown is, it's my countdown. You feel free to have your own. You can have your own opinion. You can comment in the comments if you want. But I'm counting down the top 5 songs from Control, and at least the 5 I believe that you should listen to. So if you're ready to get started, we shall get started. Okay? Okay. Sorry for being cheesy. I'm trying to get through this cold, y'all. Forgive me. Number 5 on the list is Funny How Time Flies, and it is the closer to this album. And it's very sensual, it's very sexy. It's Janet in French. I still have yet to figure out what Janet is saying, which is funny because I took French in college, but that was over 20 years ago. Why was I as a journalist, sports writer, taking French when most other athletes from different countries spoke Spanish? I don't know. Different story. But yeah, Janet is speaking French on Funny How Time Flies. Like, this is a beautiful song about two people having a good time, and they just hate for the night to end. And as you can tell, and as you can tell, and as you can tell by the noises that Janet is making in the beginning and the end, that this brother does not want to let her go at all. So it looks like Funny How Time Flies. The time ain't over yet. The time is not over yet. So that to me is proof of Janet's Quiet Storm chops. Because you got to remember, Quiet Storm was a big thing in the mid 80s. If you were an R&B artist, considered a black artist, if you did not have at least one song on the Quiet Storm, you were missing out on a lot of money. And I wish we would get back to those days. But the Quiet Storm element of Janet's personality is evident on this album, and we'll talk more about that in a couple songs. But Funny How Time Flies to me is important because it just shows that she was playful, she was sexy, she could sing, about love and intimacy in a way that was unique to her. And it's a great way to close an album. Like, it's like, wow, what do we get next? I mean, she's speaking in French. She's letting us hear her in intimate moments. It's like, wow, what do we do? What are we waiting for next? Had to wait 3 years, but it was worth the wait. Number 4 is When I Think of You. And this is probably the most fun song on the album because everything about this song just sounds like a damn good time. Like, there's nothing about When I Think of You that leads you to not be anything other than in a good mood. Like, as soon as you hear that, dun, 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 when I think of you, baby, nothing else seems to matter. Like, it's just it's a perfect song for the summer, perfect song for the spring, perfect song to just have a good time with your friends, with your intimate partner, even with family. I mean, you can play that at a cookout or something, and people will still know it because hello, it's Janet Jackson, and it's just a fun record. Just Janet has a lot of fun records, but When I Think of You might be the most fun because every time you hear it, it's a pleasant surprise when you hear it, and then you hate when it's over, especially when she's laughing at the end. Feels so good. Dun, 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 dun. Like, you can't beat that song if you're trying to get in a good mood. Like, if you want to put that on your road trip playlist, it goes hard. If you put it on your walking or running playlist, you'll probably pick up a few paces. So When I Think of You is just one of those records that just illustrates how versatile Janet was. Like, yeah, she was very social justice oriented. She was romantically oriented. She was all about freedom, self-expression, but she could let her hair down and have a good time too. Number 3, Let's Wait a While. Now, you're probably wondering why this song's so high and why it's even in the top 5, because when you think about the time that this song came out, you got to remember 1987, 86, 87. We are deep in the middle of the HIV and AIDS crisis. At least it's being acknowledged now. Because remember, for the first half of that decade, Ronald Reagan and his cronies did not even want to admit that HIV and AIDS existed. This is when, Rock Hudson and, one of Reagan's old friends from Hollywood was dying of AIDS. And Ronald Reagan was like, we can't hide from this anymore, can we? No, you can't. So that's when you started to see all these abstinence things and different things of that nature, even though AIDS, HIV and AIDS at that point was still considered a quote unquote gay disease. But Magic Johnson, of course, knocked that notion down about 4 or 5 years later. But abstinence was big at that time because the USA had a huge teenage pregnancy problem in the 70s and 80s. And so a song like Let's Wait a While was sort of political, sort of social justicey, but at the same time, It's probably one of the most sensual songs I've ever heard. Like, I don't know what Jimmy and Terry and Janet were thinking when they put that instrumental behind a song talking about we made our very first promise to love and share and be real honest. Now, all this makes people want to do is get it cracking. Let's wait a while before it's too late, before we go too far. Chances are people have gone too far to that song many times over the years. Guarantee you that. So I just always found it funny that a song that sensual has a very abstinent message behind it. But, you know, it's still a very nice song. Again, it goes back to that Quiet Storm part. Like, again, if you did not have a Quiet Storm song, if you were an R&B or black music artist, you were leaving money on the table. And you couldn't leave money on the table at that point in the game. So Janet has two really good Quiet Storm era songs from Control. And I think Let's Wait a While is better than Funny How Time Flies. They actually segue into each other because Let's Wait a While is the next to last song on the album. And Funny How Time Flies, hey, Janet was sending a message, I guess. Like, yeah, we can wait, but we've had a good time tonight. But, yeah, why are you kissing on me? Why are you doing all? Oh, man, forget it. Let's just go for it. Now, number 2 is probably the most important song on Control. Absolutely the most important song on Control. And that is Nasty. And this, for number 1, from a musical standpoint, this is one of those early ones, that one of those proto New Jack Swing joints. When you think about, New Jack Swing coming around 87, 88, you think about Keith Sweat, Make It Last Forever. You think about Guy. You think about what Jimmy and Terry later on did with New Edition, with Babyface, and L.A. Reid did with and what Teddy Riley did with Bobby on Don't Be Cruel. But you had to have some proto joints before that, like some prototype joints. You can think about Alice, I Want You Just For Me from Full Force, and this one, Nasty. Now, Nasty, there's that autobiographical element that I mentioned. Janet said that one night, she was out in Minneapolis, and some dudes were just like really, street harassing her. And she said instead of running to Jimmy and Terry for help, she took a stand. She backed them down. And as a woman, I mean, we talk about, and I can't speak as a man, but I know as women, they get a lot of crap in the streets, man. They do. Like, even if you're an attractive woman, it's a pain. If you're not an attractive woman, it's a pain because dudes are talking about you negatively. And even if men are trying to be complimentary, somehow they still make it negative. The men I'm talking about. Like, it's just, you can't just say your woman looks nice. You got to have all this weird extra stuff behind it. I almost cussed. That's why I started. I don't want to cuss on here. But Janet said that's where Nasty and Control came from. And What Have You Done For Me Lately was just out of, being assertive, self-sufficient, being in control. And it's like, you listen to that beat. Dun, 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 I think that's one of the most 80s sounding beats ever, but it absolutely just aged like fine wine. Like, if you play Nasty in 2026, there's not a feeling of, oh man, this was big in 86, but it would suck now. No, it would still knock today. It would still knock today. And Janet just being able to give women an anthem to fight off catcallers and street harassers and wannabe pimps and all of that. It's the most important song on the record because this is feminism in its second, going on third wave now. And Janet is saying, I'm not a prude. I just want some respect. Like, she's not saying, no, I wouldn't be interested. I'm just saying, just talk to me like a woman. Talk to me like a human being. Don't look at me like a piece of meat. And men are still struggling with that today in 2026. But back in 1986, it was a revolutionary record for a woman to say, don't talk to me like that. Even though you could argue the 3 Degrees started that off with a dirty old man a few years, a decade or so earlier. But, you can think about it. And even Tramp by Carla Thomas. But Janet, for a new generation, was telling young girls, you don't have to take that from men or boys. You don't have to let any guy just talk about, the size of your butt, the size of your breasts, what they want to do to you. Just say, look, if you like what you see, that's cool. But there's more to me than what you see. Find out about it. And if I like you, then maybe you'll get to know more. So that's basically what Nasty is like. It's like, all right, yeah, I know I got it going on, but there's more to me than what I look like. Please see that. And 40 years later, women are still trying to get men to see that. Hey, it's a cold game out here. It's a cold game out here. And of course, we got to go with the title track for number one, another one of those autobiographical joints, Control, the title song. And it starts off very, very, haunting, but intentional. Because Janet said, this is control of what I say, control of what I do. You know, she's welcoming people into her world as now not little Penny from Good Times, not the little girl from Fame, not Charlene from Different Strokes. This is Janet Demita Joe Jackson at 19 going on 20 saying, this is who I am. My father doesn't run my life anymore. My mom, she can only give me advice. What I'm gonna do is my way from here on out. It's like she says in the bridge. I don't want to rule the world. I just want to run my life. It's really that simple. Like a lot of people just when you're that young and you're the youngest of that many children, you're definitely getting helicopter parenting. Make no mistake about it. Like you think about what Fame did to Michael, what Fame did to Jermaine, what Fame did to Latoya, to the entire Jackson family. To be honest with you, Fame literally just chewed that family up and spit it out. I mean, they stuck together, but I mean, they were not the same people that left Gary, Indiana in the late 60s. They were not. So Janet said, before Fame does this to me, I am going to take control of my life. And I'm going to do this thing my way. And it just lets you know that this is her autobiography. This is her autobiography at 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. This is her saying, this is what I've lived up to in my life. When I was 17, I did what people told me, did what my father said, and let my mother mold me. But that was long ago. I'm in control. Literally just that in that first verse, she basically says, this is what my life was like 2 years ago. Now y'all are meeting me as how I want y'all to meet me. And it doesn't get much better than that. And that's why I say Control is probably one of it is not probably, it is one of the most important albums in music history because Janet gave every female artist a blueprint to work with from that point forward. There's elements of Control in everything a woman musician does today. Every single one. Name one. Name them. Cardi. Yes. Megan. Yes. Sabrina Carpenter. Yes. You name it. Name them. Just name a female artist, man. They're all influenced by Janet. I already told you about Beyonce. I already told you about Britney Spears. Christina Aguilera. Janet Jackson influenced them all with this album. Control is one of the most important albums in music history, and I will die on that hill. I don't think I have to have too much death on this hill because I think people will agree with me and back me up. We'll have a lot of supporters on that hill. But I'm just saying, Control is one of those albums that you can't tell the story of modern music without. That simple. But that's my top 5 from Control. I want to know what you think. What are your favorite songs on Control? What are your memories of the album from when it first dropped? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. But that's going to do it for this ride on the Groove Line. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Contact information will be in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you get notified of all the new videos that drop on this channel. And don't forget to like and comment on the videos. Yeah, as you guys know, I do talk back in the comments. So thank you guys for riding with a sick Chris Stevens on this edition of the Groove Line. Hopefully I'll start feeling better soon. And until the next time we ride, may you find the groove or may the groove find you.